Actually, I like George Groves. Now, when you look at his resume, he's 19-2 with 15 KOs. September the 19th, 2014, he weighed in at 167.4. When you look at his resume, you got Paul Smith, you got Glenn Johnson, you got James DeGale, which was somewhat controversial, and then you got 2 fights with Carl Froch. Carl Froch handed him his first and only defeats. So when you look at the first fight and how the first fight ended with Carl Froch and George Groves in November of 2013, you say, okay, I can see somewhat how it was controversial. Now, me, I covered the fight. I had George Groves losing in the later rounds. I had George Groves even being stopped or, basically losing on the cards. Simple as that, because he was slowing down tremendously after the 6th round. But then when you look at the second fight, he was in the fight, but then he got knocked out by a punch that he says Carl Froch never threw before in his career. So when you look at the fact that he lost the first fight via controversial stoppage, then he loses the second fight being knocked out cold, you have to go back and question the first fight and say, well, that kind of validifies those 2 losses. So if you don't know, I'm T-Street Controversy. This is T-Street Controversy Live with Real Combat Media, and I cover boxing. So today, once again, George Groves, 19-2 with 15 KOs. What else? Oh, Chris Rebrasse, 22, 2-3 with 6 KOs. They're going to be fighting for the WBC Silver Super Middleweight 168-pound title. Chris Rebrasse weighed in at 167.5, by the way. Limit is 168. So what I'm saying to you is that WBC Silver Super Middleweight title is a #1 contenders title for Anthony the Dog Dirrell's WBC 168-pound title. Him and Saki Obika just fought 2 exciting fights for it. So I'm going to say this. I can kind of agree with Anthony Dirrell in a recent interview. I forgot which one. He was saying that he doesn't even know who Chris Rebrasse is, and George Groves is talking all this shit, and I'm paraphrasing. And he's fighting a bump. Now, he did call Chris Rebrasse a bump. And when you look at Chris Rebrasse, he's from, I forgot where he's from, France. Now, I watched a couple of his fights, Muhammad Njai. You probably think you heard him, but no, not that Njai. But what I'm saying is he's slow, flat-footed. He looks like he's a strong guy, but he's got 6 knockouts. So you have to, of course, look at the marketing and say, oh, yeah, well, they want to make sure George Groves don't get knocked out. And not to mention, just so happened, this guy is going to be fighting for the #1 contender title. So you can say what you want about, like, who's these guys getting title shots. These guys are working their way up the ranks. You can say who they fighting or whatever the case may be, but they're fighting. So it's not like a guy like Victor Ortiz where he tried to come back and get a title shot against Carlos Molina without even being ranked. I'm talking about the 154-pound. No, not that Molina, the 154-pound Carlos Molina. So let me slow down. I know I'm talking too fast, but I'm going to say this. George Groves is in denial. George Groves got knocked out, and George Groves think that Carl Froch needs him, when in fact, George Groves is having trouble selling tickets. Now, this is coming from sources over there and a couple of people who's going to the fight. Now, when you look at the press conference, it was dead. You think this guy just came off of 80,000 seats in Wembley Stadium. And the biggest pay-per-view of the year. The biggest pay-per-view of the year. You could say Mayweather, but no. That's Skysports box office, if I'm correct, 950,000 pay-per-view, 950,000 pay-per-view buyers or something like that. But long story short, I'm not going to get into the numbers. What I'm saying is, he's a good opponent. He's a good antagonist depending on who you put him up against. Because his selling point is that he's annoying, and he likes to play mind games by being annoying. But one thing about him as a businessman, he's pretty smart. If I'm correct, he's still his own manager, even though he has a promoter. I think he was a free agent when he fought Carl Froch the second time. He's with Sutherland Promotions now. And I guess, after this fight, if the Anthony Dirrell fight don't come through, which he's the #1 contender, and I'm going to get into that, then I'm thinking he has the chance, go after that big fight, that big global fight with Mikhail Kessler. But take this fight right now, try to get a belt, from Anthony Dirrell, and then go after Mikhail Kessler. But let me say this. George Groves is the type of guy, if he wins, which I'm predicting he will, he's going to get his title shot. So Anthony Dirrell, if he's watching this video, you need to do some research on George Groves. George Groves is going to whine, and they call it whinging up there, and he's going to complain to the WBC, and he's going to be like, I'm the #1 contender. You made Bermane Stiverne, Deontay Wilder, Jean Pascal, and Adonis Stevenson, Jean Pascal is the WBC silver. He's the number 1 contender. Let's see, 168. Of course, we're talking about that now. 160, the number 1 contender for Miguel Cotto's WBC title will be the winner of Rubio and Golovkin. Who else? 154. The number 1 contender will be Sergey Rabchenko or Anthony Mundine. 147, it's Amir Khan. 140, who's the 140 mandatory? Oh, Victor Postol. 135, I don't know who the 135 number 1 contender is. If I'm correct, I believe it's Henry Hank Lundy. And so on and so on. I'm not going to keep going. But what I'm saying is the WBC, especially over the last 6 months, has been very good in ordering their mandatories. So no matter who wins, no matter how it works out, they're gonna have to fight. Simple as that. He's gonna have to fight the winner of George Groves versus Chris Rebrasse. And I don't think it's too much Al Hemi can do about it, or it's going to be another fighter dropping his belt. But like I said, already laid out what's next for George Groves. He's thinking he can get a third Carl Froch fight. And he said about Carl Froch is not satisfied. Carl Froch wants to fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. But here's the thing. Carl Froch didn't get knocked out twice. And for him to go back and fight George Groves again, it'll be clearly for money, because you can say, okay, well, they were good fights, but George Groves, no matter what, got knocked out twice. He got stopped twice. That's not, I'm sorry. That's a fight that maybe if Carl Froch is still around when he's 40 or 41, maybe then. But now, nah. And then George Groves also can fight a rematch with James DeGale. But James DeGale is being rumored to be fighting Carl Froch because, we know. Well, if people from the UK who are following Carl Froch, that he wasn't pleased about fighting George Groves twice. He tried to get Chavez Jr. before all the disputes with Bob Arum. And now he's saying, like he fought in November and he fought in May. He's saying pretty much he wants to sit out the rest of this year, which we can see he's doing, and fight sometime in the beginning of next year. James DeGale is scheduled to come back in October the 11th, if I'm correct, to main event a card, but it's not known who he's going to fight. So what I'm saying is that George Groves has options, but as far as for him to keep calling out Carl Froch is done with that chapter in his life, and I wish he just moves on. So once again, George Groves, I got him winning. I got him improving to 20. I don't believe Chris Rebrasse ever been knocked out. I got him improving to 20-2 with 15 KOs, and I'm going to be covering that fight live like I cover every single major fight live. The link to the weigh-in, Real Combat Media, is the first link right there, where it says boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu, and then below that, I run a boxing forum. So, you got to send a friend request, because what it is I run a personal Facebook page as a boxing forum for privacy reasons. So what I want is that if you send a friend request, what's going to happen is I have to screen you. But if you want, while you're waiting, then go look through my friends list and make sure, you can make sure for yourself that my page is legit. I have hundreds of current and former world champions and many people in the business. Simple as that. Once again, I'm T Street Controversy. Please subscribe. And right here, moments after the fight, I'm going to be here doing a video. Then about 6-7 hours after that, I'm going to be doing Google Hangout. And Google Hangout, if you don't know, Google it. What it is live streaming. I'm going to be here live streaming real time, and we talk about boxing. T Street Controversy Live.